So, with your permission, I would like to take us, I guess, beyond the limits of our customary thinking and perhaps beyond even our experiences. Joy is infectious. And I hope to inspire you to be infected with your own inner joy today, so that when you leave here, you leave with a little more of your own inner spirit expressing out into the world as joy. It is so very important right now and so needed right now in our world that we bring the joy. The word joy is derived from a Latin word, gaudium, which is derived from another Latin word, gaudere, meaning to rejoice. Much of what I'm speaking from today is from a metaphysical perspective. Unity founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore interpreted the Bible metaphysically, and the Unity movement applies this understanding to daily life. Metaphysics is central to Unity's teachings, providing a framework for understanding spiritual truths and cultivating the idea that our thoughts have creative power and that power can transform our experiences. Now, if you're not familiar with the term metaphysics, meta means more than or beyond. And physics has to do with the physical world. So metaphysics is concerned with what's more than or beyond the physical realm, focusing on the spiritual nature of creation. It is, in a sense, part of our effort as humans to reach further than what we see, what we touch, what we taste or smell or hear, to intuit what is beyond nature as we receive it. What is not just what's here in front of us, but where does this come from? Where does it go? And what is beyond it? Through metaphysics, we discover the true nature of things, their ultimate essences and reason for being. In my metaphysical interpretation of you, your presence is joy. The mere fact that you are here, that you were born, is reason enough to rejoice, to celebrate the joy that is you. It's exciting to be here. What a privilege it is having been born. How grateful we all should be that we were born. Imagine what we would be missing had we not been born. Not waiting in line at the DMV. Not having to clean the bathroom. Not experiencing our children grow. Never seeing a sunset. We wouldn't have to worry about politics. We shouldn't be worrying. But when you stop and think of really missing all of this adventure, this arena of human experience, then life is actually pretty exciting. It's exciting to be here. Yes, we complain about it. We worry over it. We become resistant to so much of it. But it isn't all there is. And isn't that exciting? To realize you were born, that you're alive, and that your presence is creation's expression of joy. I really love this phrase in Psalm 16:11. In your presence, there is fullness of joy. Those words inspired me to write this. In the line before that, it states, "You make known to me the path of life." Another translation says, "You teach me the way of life in your presence. I am filled with joy." I like to think that centered in joy is a life path. That joy is a taste of, joy is a state of centeredness. Could be a taste of centeredness too, I guess. That was a Floridian something. And an awareness an awareness of that centeredness. So it's not just that it is the center, but it's an awareness of that center. An awareness which is the moment we're living in, the here and the now. In this centeredness of consciousness, the dualistic distinctions between subject and object, between I and you, between our spiritual and our ordinary everyday activities are removed. There is no dualistic idea there. There are no barriers. A metaphysical interpretation of that scripture in Psalms, written by King David, refers to, I think, a deep, complete joy that fills one's soul, a profound satisfaction that is not an emotion but a state of being derived from divine presence within and the awareness of that divine presence that is you. It is an intangible, spiritual joy that surpasses any worldly or external fulfillment. It is beyond. I feel from this passage that this presence of joy is also a spiritual reveal of a path that leads to a purposeful existence. This beyond is where we're going. Joy endures and does not decrease with the changing conditions of our lives. It is in here always and can see us through every difficulty, every loss, every hardship, and even more fully illuminate the brightest of our days. I've often reflected on these words of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Quote, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Unquote. Saying that what is in us is more significant, more powerful than the external circumstances, whether they are past events, current circumstances, or even future uncertainties. In here is so much more. It is beyond. Many people say that bad accidents or bad things happen, that unfairness is not only possible, but probable. They say that real happiness is hard to come by and usually short-lived, that we come into this world, live and die, and what we experience between is mostly a struggle and a challenge. And there's this continual compromise between what we want and what we get. We're stuck in the middle. I'm not saying that we don't have challenges and struggles and disappointments, but it is how we perceive those situations that determine not only their impact on us, but our impact on the world. Because this is sort of a pattern that we have generally believed, our actions have been based on that belief that life is a struggle. And as the result of natural law, they have brought about that end. How often have we heard others or ourselves say when something happens that we perceive as bad, "I told you so. I knew this was going to happen. It always happens like this. It's going to happen again." Not only have you told you so, but you have told the universe so. And thus, it is so. If you believe that something happening to you is bad, you will react to the event in a way that will attract more of the same. We attract what we put out. We attract what we put out. Again, I'm not denying the reality that we can find ourselves in challenging circumstances. The irretrievable loss of a loved one, a debilitating illness, an injury, losing a job, and so much more. However, it is in reality our reaction to, or more precisely, our thinking and our beliefs about events and circumstances, not the events themselves, that cause our continued perception that there is no joy in what happens, in what is happening. There is no joy, we believe, in what we consider devastating, miserable, and hopeless. You may be asking, how can there be joy in me not having enough money for my car payment this month? Or how can there be joy in my being mistreated at work? How can there be joy in my being evicted from my home and having to live in my car? How can there be joy in my problems, in the conflicts with my family, or any number of unfortunate, unpleasant situations that occur in our lives? This is one of the fallacies of human thinking. We all have been conditioned to believe that whatever happens to us determines what happens as us. We're really taught to believe that things such as joy, love, and zest for life are the results of effects of a happy, trouble-free life. Do you ever have that experience when you're just happy and you're smiling and somebody says, "What do you have to be happy about?" Why do you have to have something to be happy about? Can't we just have joy simply because we are? And not merely responding with happiness to something in our life that went our way. Joy isn't a response, it's a cause. I'm going to go out on a limb here, although that's kind of my thing, but I'm saying it anyway. Neither stress nor happiness is contained in things, events, or situations. Things are just things. Events are just events. Situations are only situations. It is up to each of us to support how we will arrive and embrace them, how we will anchor ourselves in our own joy, in our own spirit. I realize this thinking may still be a big leap for many of us, especially considering what's gone on in our lives and the ways we've been disciplined to think about them. I often tell my students in class, I don't want you to be concerned with learning anything. Learning is an ongoing process. You'll get it. I want you to examine and question why you think the way you do. Where do your thoughts come from? Why do you believe them? Because we because of how we think, that will often establish how we live, and we should know about it. In Act 2, Scene 2 of William Shakespeare's Hamlet, during an exchange between the characters Hamlet, Guildenstern, and Rosencrantz, I believe it's Hamlet who says this, quote, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so," unquote. What does it mean for there to be nothing good nor bad, but for things, but good and bad come from thinking it so? Thinking it so. In a sense, we don't have the broader knowledge of foreseeable outcomes to say that certain events really are good or bad. We don't know where they may lead. If you look back on your life, some of the things you thought were the worst thing ever somehow brought you somewhere wonderful or somewhere exciting, or changed your path in some way that you now say, oh, this is a benefit to me. Labeling things as good or bad and getting worked up about the quote-unquote goodness and badness really is not conducive to living a joy-centered, more fulfilled life. It just shackles us into debating good and bad forever. We get stuck in thinking about what is true rather than expressing and living truth. What we ultimately believe and hold on to about our experiences will shape how those experiences affect us and shape us. Here's a story from my own life that gives a kind of example of this, I think. In some ways, that this experience I'm going to tell you is what eventually put me on a path that led me right here today. Back in 1980 or 81, I kind of forget now which year it was, I had just moved from Rochester to New York City to dance with the Joffrey Ballet. I was 18 or 19 years old and so excited. I was only there for a few months before I had a serious injury. I severely pulled, maybe even slightly tore, my gluteus minimus, which is sort of basically the tendon in my hip. It was devastating and painful, both physically and mentally. I mean, I had finally moved out on my own to New York City, and my dance career was just beginning. The doctors gave me the traumatizing news that though I would recover, my left leg would never be able to do what a career in dance would require. He was basically saying I could never dance again. There must have been something in me, a kind of centeredness, I guess, that wouldn't allow me to believe in what he told me. Because somehow I was led to a physical therapist who was a holistic medicine practitioner. Is that the right word? Practitioner, thank you. And spiritualist. I felt I had the capacity to go beyond the appearance of my impairment and continue to live joyfully, and here's the key, and gratefully. Which I think resulted in the self-empowering attitude that set the stage for my recovery. This physical therapist was a godsend. The first thing she taught me was transcendental meditation and visualization meditation. Over the course of about 3 years, I visualized my hip healing. Every day, even multiple times a day, I would visualize a waterfall rushing healing water through my hip socket and flushing out any weakness. At first, this was quite awkward, but eventually these meditative states just became ordinary and part of my daily routine. There wasn't only a physical transformation taking place, but my belief system was also going through an alteration, a metamorphosis, really. I no longer believed I wouldn't ever dance, although I don't know if I actually ever believed that. I believed I would dance. 4 years later, though I was a little older and after dropping out of 3 other universities, not as a dance major, I started out all over as a freshman at SUNY Purchase as a dance major. I went on to have a very successful, even exceptional dance career all over the world. Now back to having the injury and it being a bad experience. Even though initially it appeared to be an enormous setback, during those 3 years, because of learning meditation and the philosophy behind it, my thinking expanded, it deepened. I went beyond. And I began to explore other faith traditions and religious beliefs. For example, I joined a Buddhist study group that met once a week at East West Books on 14th Street, which led me to an Islamic group, and then a Baha'i study circle, and a Taoist spiritual practice class, and so on. I began reading books on the nature of consciousness, metaphysics, and spiritual transformation. All this unfolded because my hip was injured. One day, a friend who knew I was interested in the transcendental and New Thought movements told me about a Unity minister, Eric Butterworth, who held services Sunday morning at Avery Fisher Hall at Lincoln Center and suggested I attend. I had never heard of Unity, but after only a few visits, I quickly became a member. What had been a ravaging accident revealed a lifelong journey of spiritual exploration and discovery, and eventually guided me to this space almost 30 years ago. What I'm asking of you is not to find joy in the circumstance, not to find joy in the things that are happening to you, but to find joy in you, as you. When we think of Jesus' healing the sick, feeding the hungry, or the prophet Muhammad showing kindness to outcasts, offering compassion to everyone, or the Buddha's internal contentment from non-attachment and his sympathetic joy in others' happiness, we find they all lived from a boundless inner awareness of joy, an enlightenment, the unfoldment of the idea of God. This is your joy. In John 15:11, Jesus says to his disciples, "These things I have spoken to you." I always like to add an example for you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. If the Christ is in you, or you may call that light or energy or universe, nature, or whatever word resonates with you, then the fullness of joy is in you. It is you. There's a Chinese proverb that says, "The miracle is not to fly in the air or to walk on the water, but to walk on earth." Because here we are. We were born. We've arrived. Earth is a place of discovery and experience. It's no accident that you're here. It's no accident that your presence is transformative and that transforming power is a fountain of joy coming up from within that spills out into the world, creating wonderment, magic, and yes, miracles. There isn't a path that leads you to joy. Your joy is the path, not just for you, but for everyone in your life. When your joy resonates, illuminates, expresses, it fills everyone with joy. It reminds them of their joy. Reconnect with that flow of joy. Relate to life on a higher and higher level of joy. Give thanks for it. Feel yourself charged and recharged by this inner surge. Listen deeply within yourself, the consciousness of all there is, and then express these words as an affirmation. My presence is the joy of life that blesses and transforms the world. Let's affirm these words out loud together. My presence is the joy of life that blesses and transforms the world. That was fairly good. But now, let's raise the vibration in this room and send that energy out into the spaces beyond these walls. One more time, my presence. My presence is the joy of life that blesses and transforms the world. Now we can go on tour. Remember, you are not putting joy into you. You are releasing, freeing the truth of your being that is joy. This power, this energy, this creative joy you were born with will renew your strength. You will soar with wings as eagles. You will run and not be weary, and you will walk and not faint. Uncumbered, vulnerable, you will live from the joy that is your eternal now. And this ever unfolding truth shall set you free. And so it is.